Hello YouTube, Garage Gym community, CrossFit Dad here, and today is part 2 of my unfortunate hip resurfacing journey. Last we left off, part 1 there, I was in the hospital. I talked to the surgeon, basically informing me that I needed emergency washout surgery. So after they'd moved everything around that afternoon, June 27th, 25 days after my initial surgery, they got me in for emergency washout surgery. They went in through the same incision, worked their way down the layers, and basically washed out, flushed out all the infectious fluid that was in there from the infection that I had. They used an iodine wash, and then they left a whole bunch of antibiotic beads in there. It was about an hour and a half, something like that. Sewed me up, and then away I went into recovery. I ended up being in the hospital for 3 nights after that. I had really, really low blood pressure from the infection, but also I needed injections every 8 hours, antibiotic injections, and it took a little bit for me to be able to get a PICC line in. As you can probably see from my last video, I had that bandage on my arm. They put a line in through my arm, cross through my chest, 2 inches above my heart, so that when I headed home, I would be on a 6-week antibiotic injection every 8 hours to help kill the rest of the infection. Before I left the hospital, I was able to meet with the surgeon a couple times there, and I asked him, how did the washout surgery go? I was curious. He said, good. He said the infection was really, really bad, but the washout went well. Again, they didn't dislocate it, but they did everything that they could possibly do. I was like, okay, so was this like a one and done? Now I'm good to go, no turning back kind of thing. And he's like, no. He's like, statistically, it's 50-50. That was a bit of a tough pill to swallow, to hear that 50-50 this infection comes back. Now, my surgeon in Ontario, who I've been in contact with the whole time, he was a little bit more optimistic. Because it's a ceramic on ceramic implant, he was a slight bit more optimistic. He gave me like 60-40, 70-30, the infection doesn't come back. But still, that's like 30 to 50% chance. I was only 1% chance to get this infection in the first place. So that was concerning. And if the infection comes back, they have to go back in, open me back up. They take out the implant that I tried for 2 years to get, hip resurfacing, and they put in the implant that I tried for 2 years to avoid a total hip replacement. So that was tough to take. That was really tough to take. Either way, I headed home and restarted recovery at home. Right back to zero. That was the other thing he says. They pulled all the muscles and did all these things. I was right back to zero after that washout surgery. The pain was worse than the first surgery. The nerve pain was wild. I needed 3,000 milligrams of Tylenol a day and morphine for like 2 weeks, just to get to deal with it. It was so intense. Sometimes it would stop me from talking. It would make me into a sweat. I almost puked a few times. The pain was the most intense pain I've ever had. And then in being at home a couple days after, something weird was happening and didn't happen first surgery. So I had a really big bandage because I had like 30 staples right up the front. I mean, these bandages were like this, right? And they started draining a couple days after I got home. I woke up and the bandage was soaked through full, not blood, but fluid. And for the first week, my wife had to change these bandages every 24 hours. It would be full at 16 to 18 hours. And then by 24 hours, it was leaking. It was blowing the bandage. It was just coming down my leg, which was incredibly alarming. And we went to the health unit. Everybody there was like, oh, okay. I'm like, is this normal? They're like, well, it's not really normal, but it's not abnormal, so it's okay. And I'm like, that's reassuring. That's like kind of how I talk to my kids when something's not normal, but I just want them to not think about it, and then it'll be okay, right? So anyways, a week later, I think it was 10 days after my washout surgery, I went back for a follow-up. with the surgeon. And I showed him this, and he was there like, oh, okay, wow, okay, well, this isn't good. Again, it's okay. But they put on a Pico bandage. So same size bandage, but it has a little computer unit and it creates a vacuum. So it actually pulls all the fluid and tries to pull your incision together. So I had that for like almost 2 weeks. And I was blowing through those bandages every 24 to 30 hours, right? So it was still like this is just really unsettling. It was very unsettling. Still in a lot of pain, but this new abnormality. Plus I'm trying to shower with a PICC line in. You can't get wet. I got these bandages that you're supposed to try and keep dry. Like, I'm back to 2 crutches again. Really having a hard time, getting around and in lots of pain. Anyways, I kept on this, and then finally at about day 18 after the second surgery, the bandages stopped filling, basically stopped draining. So on day 21, I was finally able to get my staples out. Previous surgery, staples were out day 11. The incision was totally healed. This one, it wasn't fully sealed till like day 20. So got the staples out at day 21. Fast forward a little bit ahead, and I'm not doing, also the other thing is happening is I'm not doing any exercising. With this PICC line in, I wasn't able to exercise for 6 weeks. I was told no gym, no cigars. 2 things that I like in the lifestyle I hold. I like fitness, I like cigars. And I was told neither of those for 6 weeks. So sitting at home, not doing nothing, stressed out, in pain, 2 of the things that I enjoy in life are not allowed. But on August 11th, I was finally able to get my PICC line out. And that was huge for me. Huge because the next day, I was in the gym. Now, I knew I had to be very deliberate and patient in my progression. But when I was talking to people, I'm like, hey, can I do this? Should I do this? And the surgeon's like, oh, I'm sure that's fine. Yeah, I'm sure that's fine. I got that a lot during this whole journey. So what I found is nobody really knows. So I set out a very deliberate, slow progression fitness plan. Part of that plan was a squatting plan. Every week I changed the squat. So I started squatting on a 20-inch box. Then I went to this chair. Then I went to a flat bench. About 2 to 3 inches down each week. I'd squat anywhere from 50 to 100 squats during a workout, a couple times a week with that, along with posture, stretching, activation, physiotherapy exercises, all that kind of stuff. I also set out a couple other exercises where I baselined myself. I did the exercise or that workout once a week to see progression. And man, like I ended up with crazy progression. Like the gains were unlike anything I've ever seen, which was cool, but I also had to keep it managed so I'm not loading the hip joint. I'm not doing too much. And, I got into the rower, shorter cycle on the row, shorter range of motion. I finally got to the echo bike, and all these things helped get me to a point where the week by week progress was really, really significant. So I had a physiotherapy visit on like around the 14th or 15th of August. And they came in and they measured my leg, and I was still walking with a cane at that point. Still needed a cane. They measured my leg. My dominant leg, the operated leg, was 6 centimeters smaller than my weaker leg. The atrophy I had of not basically being workout for 2.5 months was I was blown away at how small this leg got and how weak it got. But with all that progression, I was able to ditch the cane on August 26th. So August 26th, walking unassisted everywhere. Awesome. Took longer than I wanted, but I was able to walk without limping to wherever I needed to go within reason. Then I had another physiotherapy appointment, I think on September 11th, and they remeasured my leg, and I was walking unassisted, and it was only 0.5 centimeter smaller this time. So it grew 5.5 centimeters, which is huge. And, She watched me walk, she watched me do all these exercises, and she was really, really happy with the progress, the work I'd put in, because man, I got to work in here 5 days a week. I wanted to be done with that cane. I was tired of people opening up doors for me and watching me walk around with the cane. That was a huge motivation for me. So yeah, she was like, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing what you're doing. She's like, you're on the right path. Keep doing these couple little exercises that we had in there. And just at this point, I haven't had an Advil in almost 6 weeks, or Tylenol. Like, I don't take painkillers anymore. It's crazy. I played a round of golf September 5th. No painkillers. Didn't need a hot tub or Theragun prior. I wasn't limping all over the place by the back nine. I swung without pain, say 85, 90% my swing, and I played pretty good. So the progression started slow, but the program really, really came together. I got back to work on September 15th, modified, but I got back to work, and I go back to work in 2 days, full go. It'll be October 17th. Go back to work full days. I even had a run on September 20th, like light runs. I did some light 200-meter runs. I'm not tilting or anything like that. So the progress has been slow, but it has been incredible. All right, sorry, the building has been slow, but the progress has been very, very quick. So ultimately, right now, I consider myself to be back in full life. I'm not 100% in fitness, but I'm still working every day. I've got friends that come over and work out with me, keep me motivated and stuff. And I got one friend that went through something pretty traumatic himself in the last year. And he's been there to really encourage me, because what he went through was way worse than what I went through. And he asked me, he's like, and he watched the first video, he was like, Jay, I can't wait for the second video to hear what the silver lining is going to be. And so I thought about that a lot before making this video. So for me, the silver lining is more a couple takeaways. First takeaway for me, as I learned, is I got really good treatment. The doctors, the surgeons have been really awesome. But as much as they know, there's so much they don't know. And most of that's honestly on the recovery side. What to do. Everybody kind of deflected to the physiotherapists and stuff like that. So I love programming. I took that on myself, and I built what I think was a really good program, because after everything that I've went through, man, I'm giving her in here, and I'm feeling good. I'm back to golf, and I'm back to, helping out at Taekwondo. I don't throw full kicks yet, but I'm still teaching again. I can walk wherever I want, stand as long as I want, do what I need to, and I'm just going to keep building fitness. The second takeaway is a little bit more humbling. So I'm a husband and a father to 2 girls. And I'd like to consider myself a good husband, a good dad. I try to be anyways. But often when you give yourself that evaluation, it's under ideal conditions. So this summer wasn't ideal. And when you give yourself that evaluation that you're a good dad and a good husband, and then you're met with some challenges and you fail the mark, it's a pretty difficult thing to confront at times. It's a pretty tough realization to come to grips with. Yeah, I was in a lot of pain. Yeah, there was financial stress. Yeah, we didn't do a lot, and the kids fought in the summer and all this kind of stuff. Those excuses don't matter. There's a certain standard I hold myself to, and I didn't hit that standard. My wife reminded me of that a couple times, lovingly. Man, you need to do better. You got to be more patient with these kids. I know things are tough, but you got to do better. She was right. So I really tried to focus on that, especially in the second half of the recovery. And then my buddy came over that asked me about the silver lining. And I mentioned what we just talked about. He's like, Jay, you are a really good coach. You're good at programming and teaching and all these things. He's like, you need to do that for your kids. I was like, I don't know what you mean. He's like, instead of being a militaristic dad and a really harsh coach, be the kind of coach that has to figure out what you need to do so that you can have the best out of them, so they can have a fulfilling summer, so they can be happier instead of getting yelled at, instead of crying all the time, those things. Figure out what you need to do from a coaching perspective to be better. So that hit home big time. So thank you for that, because I know you're going to watch. The last silver lining is not surprising to me, but I'm going to share it with you. As a God-fearing Christian man who does like to have a lot of control, I was really reminded of how little control I have. I had very little control over a lot of things. I was also reminded for the second time in my life, in a pretty unideal situation, that God's got a plan. I may not always like it. I may not always understand it, but I do need to accept it. I became part of the 1% that had a deep joint infection. None of this was normal. None of it was smooth. And it wasn't any fun. Honestly, this was a terrible summer for everybody. My wife, both my daughters, and me. It sucked. And I didn't crush it. But I know that God's in control. Now, all the financial struggles, the pain, all these different things, God sent people into our lives that were already around us, but He used people to help us emotionally. People bought us meals. We had family and another friend specifically that helped us financially. And man, did we need that. So yeah, for whatever reason, this journey was God's plan. But He provided for us, He took care of us, and He used people and community to do it. And that is cool. So no matter what happens going forward, I'm going to go in for blood work tomorrow to get my white blood cell checked, because it's still possible this infection can come back. Basically, the rest of this calendar year, I'm kind of waiting. But I'm not going to sit here and stress about it and worry about it. I'm going to keep getting to work, and I'm going to just trust it. If God decides that infection comes back, then He's going to get me through just like He did the last one. I may not like it. I may not understand it, but I will have to accept it. That's a silver lining. That's what I take out of it. Thank you for watching. I hope this was of value to people. On the unfortunate chance this happens to you, maybe it gives you a little bit of insight to things that can happen, the processes, the timelines, things that might happen, because we all see the things that are normal. This one wasn't normal, so maybe it's a value. Maybe it's been an inspiration to somebody else, something like that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Keep working out, keep grinding. I'm going to get back to some more videos here soon. All right.